Welcome to the second part, and in this part we'll start doing this marker rendering. And to start with, most of the designers will basically block the shadow areas or the darker regions like shadows and the wheels, and then from there onwards they'll start the other part. So we'll do the same thing. We'll just block these areas. In marker rendering you have to be fast. So just quickly block these areas. Block these areas. In some regions it might get inside, so don't bother too much about it. Speed is everything in marker rendering. Just keep on doing it, even if you feel that some areas you are basically not clean enough, we'll always tidy it up later on. So and I'm using cool gray 6 here instead of dark black because it gives me a little bit of liberty to do gradation later on. If I just use black sorry, it doesn't allow me any gradation whatsoever. So anything which is slightly darker in color, like above 6, you can use for this first coat, so that later on if you want to actually build up some sort of gradation, which I'll show you, it'll be easier to do instead of using black directly in the first coat itself. So use lighter color, lighter but darker gray, so that you can always build up a bit of gradation using in even this shadow areas. Now when I use 7, I'll use cool gray 7 on this and basically do a shadow on a shadow. So what I can do here is build up a bit of a shadow within a shadow, like this. This lower portion, the back portion of the wheels, back wheels, with these areas which are not part of the wheel. So you can basically differentiate using even the darker color of the black within gray. So always use something which is not as dark to start with. Okay, so within these areas I am able to build up gradation because I have used gray to start with and not black. So these areas which are just beneath the car. So now using warm gray, I'll block the greenhouse region of the car and what is visible through the greenhouse. So these are the areas I'll start blocking now. I'm using warm gray 4. Generally, in body parts I'll use cool gray, and on the interiors or inside I'll always use warm gray. It's not a rule, but you can always experiment with different colors and gradations and whatever feels correct to you. So I'll generally use warm gray and cool gray, and warm gray I'll use in the interiors and cool gray just to show a little bit of dashboard there. The interiors, just a bit of it there. Okay, so then you can always come back and give a second edge to it so that it comes out. especially working with short pack markers, they're pretty juicy, so you have to be slightly more careful and fast compared to Copics or Prismacolors. So that you have to take care. So now the interiors are done. I'll use another warm gray to do this reflection part of the car, and so maybe I'll just use even the darker one or the brighter one. I'll use cool gray 5, warm gray 5 here in these areas. Okay, and then here also I'll do it later, just as of now. The major blocking is done. Now we'll go ahead and do with the interiors. Just let me just block these areas. Yeah, earlier on if you do it, it gives a good feeling, as if something is coming out. If you can do this, this gives a good feeling that that the whole thing is turning out to be something. So I'll leave this here, and then we'll go ahead and do the body. Now with the body we are going to use yellow, so we'll just start with a normal yellow and use these lines as a guide to do my reflections. So I'll just put this color here, and only in the top part of these lines, so that I can build up a gradation later on. Okay, so I come up with a slightly lighter one next to it, and build up a smooth gradation between this. Build up a smooth gradation here also, build up a smooth gradation. Okay, and in this lower region also, this is a kind of a dip in the surface, so this will see darker yellow, and this portion will reflect the sky. So I'll just go ahead and block this also, and use the lighter ones to give it a kind of a gradation here. Okay, now I can also add a bit of orange to give a more dramatic kind of lighting here. So I'll see if we can actually use a lighter orange, so that it feels as if the entire thing is getting into orange from yellow. So I'll just wet this area once, and then use a really light yellow here, chrome orange, orange here, just to give a highlight feeling to that and have more dramatic effect. So I'll come back and blend this. So the whole point, or the whole method of blending, is that the marker color on your paper should be wet, so that it's able to spread. Here also I'll just add a tinge of orange, and before it dries I come back with the same yellow color and start spreading it, so I get a kind of a blend here. Now same thing I'll do here. This time I'm going to get a blend from this to up. So I'll just do this, bring my orange here, and then a lighter one, lighter yellow. So oops, get this blend, nice blend right here, and then these areas I'll just fill with normal yellow here, light yellow. Okay, this also light yellow. Now, if you observe the car, you'll find that these regions, half of your A pillar and B pillar are really dark, and rest of it takes the reflection. So I'll do that. Okay, here also I'll build up a kind of a tinge orange. And then go ahead again so that I can get a nice blend here. Come back here, wet it, and use orange again. Okay, now in this lower region I want slightly darker color. So what I'll do is, because this is almost near the ground, so there will be gradation of the entire over the entire body. So this has to be really deep dark, other than what I have applied here. So deep dark yellow. So what I can do is I can apply one coat of yellow and this region also, and then come back with something like cool grade 2 or cool grade 3 and go over it using cool grade maybe 2 or 3. So this lower region I can always use a slightly dark color of gray, go over it and make yellow look slightly darker. Maybe I can use one more different color here, yellow, to kind of build a gradation in the flat region. So what is important that you should have the entire value of a color if you really want to do very effective marker rendering. Otherwise it's difficult to achieve gradation. Now if you want to show shininess of chrome, so what you can do is come up with a lighter gray, just do half of it. Build up a small gradation on the top with dark on the top and light below in half portion of it. So and even better you can come up with cool grade 3 here. So just half of it. Build up a small gradation there, so it will look like chrome. Now let's block the grill area. So when you are blocking dark areas, make sure that you leave a little bit of lip around so that it shows depth. So what I'm going to do is leave a bit of area below instead of blocking the entire region. Since I'm seeing it from the top, I'll see a bit of a lip or the depth. So I'll just leave these areas white. So that it shows the depth there. Okay, similarly I'll just cover this area, build up a small gradation here. Okay, now it's time to do some greenhouse, and again I'll choose slightly lighter color, warm grade 3 here. So I'll just do this random streaks here. There's no fixed pattern that is required, but what you have to keep in mind is the areas that come within that has to be dealt slightly differently. So when I'm doing this, I'll let it dry before I go ahead and do these areas, because I want it to be different and not mix with that. So in that, within that, what I'll do is I'll just use these areas to go slightly darker, so that it feels as if it is within, showing through the reflection. So that makes a lot of difference. So similarly, these areas, if I'm using 6, let's say if I'm using 6 here for these, let me just use and show it to you. So if I'm using 6 in this pillars, and leave a little bit of, okay, I'll put this 6, okay, and then this I'll tidy up later on. So then I'll come back and use 7 just in this area, so that it looks slightly darker. Well, just in this area. So wherever you actually see the reflection through, that has to be darker here, because it is light and it will flow through the entire material, not just, So like you can see, it has gone slightly out, so don't worry about it, we can always tidy up later. So this is done. We just use sort of darker color here to tidy up these areas. Okay, and put a streak here also if you like. Okay, now let's develop sort of a gradation within that side glass, and use maybe warm gray 4 here. So in this area, it's just on the top part, and use warm gray 4 so that within that I can show some sort of gradation. And here also. Okay, so now it's time to do some sort of finish off the wheels. And I use cool gray here, and for the lights it's easier to just put 2 streaks here, use warm gray, and then do a lot of gradation. Come back with a lighter color and build up a sort of a small gradation in these areas, so it will feel like there's a light there. So you cover these areas, then come with slightly darker color, give a tinge of it. It's basically a lot of chaos that happens, within the light in a chrome. So that is what you need to depict. So if you can do that, you get pretty effective, method of showing chrome. And then maybe 2-3 streaks of glass here. So that's more or less done. This also just a little bit of chrome area in there. Okay, so more or less this looks pretty good. I'll just add a little bit of red here for this indicators, and then we'll add this. Let me just finish this off. Dark, yeah. And now what we can do is do these wheels. So you can imagine that, you know, the light is coming from the top. So these are the areas which will be in shadow. Yeah, these areas, this area. I'm using cool gray here. And this area. In general, this will be both areas. Okay, so now we'll take this. I was using cool gray 3, cool gray 2. I'm looking for cool gray 3 here. Okay. Okay. Here it is. So we'll use cool gray 3 here. And then cool gray 2 and then finally cool gray 1. So cool gray 2 here. And then slight tinge of blue here. And just a bit of gradation here. And here it will be dark because that is not seen. So just basic fundamentals of light and shadows. Okay, and this is where you can actually use a pretty dark color to differentiate between the hole's wheel ring. So this is where, you know, I will use probably 9, 10 or even, you know, the dark pitch black. And then go back and, you know, tidy it up using a ballpoint pen. That will show you. That I'll show you soon. Once this is done, you can just play it a little bit and get a bit of gradation here and there. Which will look nice. Use slightly darker color, maybe 4 or 5. Use probably a darker one. And this looks okay. I'll just come up with maybe dark black here. Okay, so more or less your wheels are done, and now we are on the final stages of, you know, our rendering, where we just need to use a ballpoint pen and we are done. I'll just do a bit of a rear here, just do a small gradation on the rear part also. The procedure for drawing the wheel remains more or less same, so you can always go ahead and do the wheel for the rear also. Kind of will leave this. Just a little bit of gradation and then do that also. Okay, didn't do the gradation for this, so I'll finish this off. Orange, and it looks like we're more or less through this, and you know, probably the final stages where I just need to tidy a few things. In a while I'll do that. To go ahead with the final stages, you'll probably require a ballpoint pen, and just make sure that you finish your drawing before you're using this ballpoint pen. Otherwise, you know, once this is done, you cannot use marker again most of the time. So just tidying up things here. It looks, finally it should look cleaner here. Giving edge to everything. These should look cleaner. Even these, as I told you, it's very important that you do these so that finally it looks much cleaner here. Do this, finish this off. Whatever is like getting inside each other, just use this technique of line weight to bring it inside. Use this to make it clean, to demarcate lines lightly or heavily, just to bring it out, basically, so that it's seen from a distance. These lines. This indicator, and then we'll use Prismacolor just to give it a tinge. Finally, so, and darken the other part, the wheel. So that we can differentiate between the wheel and the vacant area. So this is more or less done. Just tidy up a few things here and there. Maybe tidy up this. Tidy up this. Tidy up this. Tidy up this. These areas. But make sure that you do not use marker over them again. So you can see, more or less we'll finish this, and that is how it finally looks. Thank you.